Welcome back to the programme. Poland has postponed the presidential election over fears the country's coronavirus lockdown would prevent voters from participating. The ruling Law and Justice Party had pushed for Sunday's election to go ahead as a postal vote, but opposition parties objected, saying there wasn't time to organise the ballot on such short notice and warned it might not meet democratic standards. Under current law, the vote must take place before May the 23rd. Well, let's find out more. Our correspondent Shona Murray is following the story in Dublin. Shona, morning to you. So, really, it was quite a dramatic turn of events. Everyone was really much gearing up for this weekend, just days before the vote to take place. It's been postponed. What happened?
Yeah, well, it was always in question when we spoke about this yesterday, Rosie, of course, when the upper house of the Polish parliament, the Senate, voted against holding the elections, citing a lot of the concerns from pro-democracy groups, even people like Donald Tusk, the former Prime Minister of Poland and former President of the European Council, where they said it would be impossible if they're going to hold a postal ballot for 30 million people. There would be huge logistical obstacles and, of course, questions around transparency. And, of course, the issue was that the opponents that were also competing the presidential election, that they had no time to campaign, so it wouldn't be a fair election. So we saw yesterday then a statement, a very important statement from Jaroslaw Kaczynski, who is the ruler of Poland's Law and Justice Party and arguably the most powerful person in Poland, conceding then that Sunday's election wouldn't take place. So the question now, Rosie, is when will the election take place? Because under the Constitution, it's due to take place in May. But of course, if you have a ballot in 2 weeks' time, you still have the same concerns. The only option there is to call a state of emergency, which means that the Polish government could postpone the election for around 3-6 months' time. And obviously that would be a time where, like we said, people could campaign. You could have a proper ballot where people could turn up to the polls and then enjoy, obviously, fair and free elections. So that remains to be seen. And there are concerns that the ruling Law and Justice Party will still push for this May date. Rosie.
Shona, thank you. Well, for more on this, we're joined now by analyst Paweł Muszalek. He's director of the Jagiellonian Club, the think tank in Warsaw. Thank you very much for your time. Was it inevitable that this was going to be postponed, this election?
Yeah, this election will be postponed, and yesterday morning nobody expected that this solution would be put on the table. Nobody expected that Jarosław Gowin, leader of Porozumienie, the party which is coalition party with Law and Justice Party, could effectively pressure on Jarosław Kaczynski. It happens, and I think that's a very important victory of Jarosław Gowin, which was under very high pressure from PiS to agree on election during the May. Law and Justice Party pressure on Gowin because they expected that in May probably the result of Andrzej Duda will be the best. Jarosław Gowin cannot agree because he explained that because of the health reason and because of the many other reasons, this election cannot be realized in May. So finally, Gowin was successful, and this election probably will be during the summertime, and I think that that's a good solution because Poland will have more time to organize this election in a better way by means of organizational affairs. That's the first important issues, but it was more time to realize campaign by the opposition. It was worth to mention that opposition criticized this agreement because the biggest political party is Civic Platform, but the other as well underlined that Poland should start emergency state, and this is the best way to prolong this election. Law and Justice Party underlined that this emergency state was
Can
not
I just
needed.
interject, Paweł? It's been really carefully scrutinised by the European Parliament. They passed a resolution last month saying the Law and Justice Party's efforts to try and push this through with a postal vote amid a pandemic was totally incompatible with European values. How will they see this development, and what will they want to happen next? Presumably a postponement further on than May.
This correspondent way of voting was controversial, but I cannot agree that it was completely out of European values. In many places, correspondence election is realized, but in Poland, of course, the problem was we never organized correspondent voters for everybody. So that's a huge challenge for state to organize it, and it was impossible to organize it in a short time. And it was, I think, that important factor that changed Jarosław Kaczyński decision, because within the last 2 weeks we observed many problems with organization of elections. There was many information that this election realized by our post company was very controversial, in short. So I think that's a good decision that this election is postponed. But of course, the decision to realize formally, of course, not de facto, this election, 10th of May, was very controversial, because I don't remember that kind of situation when formally we have election, which after that will be estimated by the highest court as a non-valid, and after that Marshal of our Parliament will organize the next presidential election. So it was really precedence. The first. I never seen that kind of event before. But I think that this solution is the best one, and I'm happy that this is happening, because organizing this election in May would be probably